I just got a call from a friend in Iceland who I perform every December with. He does these Christmas shows, and he wants to do two
Right.
songs. And so very hard to go and get your feet back on the ground.
Oh God.
They sent tracks and I guess they weren't too good. And so the bass players redoing them. I said, go back and grab those original tempos.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Get back.
yeah. Hopefully you'll be able to do that gig. Iceland's probably pretty healthy.
I think so. I think they're doing
Yeah.
okay. By that time, I hope. But who knows what the airports are going to be like? Even by then, I think that's going to change forever.
Yeah, as far as masks and stuff and social distancing at airports and stuff.
And time, it was enough after 9/11 happened, and now.
So, fellas.
So now always get their 3. Are we on? Are we on?
We are on, and
all right.
I hurried my.
Oh, wow.
I originally had
social distancing at airports and time, was enough.
There we go. Sorry, we got some bleed through here. I'm trying to start a watch party.
Okay, so I initially had this labeled as Friday Night Hang with Tom Politzer featuring Brandon Fields and Adolfo Acosta, and because I wasn't getting it to go through, I just went Friday Hang with Tom. So we could start this in a hurry.
Okay, there we go. We got 5 people here.
Right. So
I started.
Let me just say thank you, Brandon, for joining us, because Tom and I were starting to get really boring.
He's a fresh blood.
Right.
Yes, that's right.
So
I'm assuming all of our 10 people that are on board now all know who Brandon Fields is. One of my favorite players since the first time I heard you.
Thanks.
And true story. I just, it's not smoke. It's the real thing. And I'm just curious about how you've been. All of your gigs dried up just like mine did, and so what have you been through since you've been home for 2 months, essentially?
Different feelings. Sometimes I've been way into my house. Just working on various aspects. So that's been good. Kind of got me off my butt to fix things and to modify some things that I've been wanting to do for a long time. But other than that, I've had a few sessions that I've been able to do remotely, but then that's kind of been dry too for the last month. And I have another one of those that just popped up, but they're few and far between. Keeping our fingers crossed.
So you practicing much?
Just off and on. I like the last several years, I've kind of been very gig specific in my practicing. So since there are no gigs, now I've been going back and trying some other pieces and just kind of getting back into some fundamentals, and hopefully that'll bear some fruit.
Well, yeah, I think I have like in June 27th of 2021, I might need you to sub for me next year.
I could do that. I love the last time I subbed. I had a blast.
So how long ago was that you filled in those 2 dates for me?
It was 2010, if I remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow. That was long ago. And that low California gigs, weren't they?
Yeah, they were always my most fun gigs to do with Tower.
Yeah. Yeah, California. Staying local.
They picked me up in Oakland, and we went straight to a gig, and we did 3 songs at a sound check, and we never did a full-on rehearsal or anything. And I had goosebumps when I walked on stage, and that's one of my fondest memories with them ever.
So before you did the Tower thing, I can't imagine you not being a fan. You had to be a fan.
Oh, I was a huge fan. Yeah.
So standing on the stage, did it feel odd to stand on the stage with somebody you're a complete fan of?
Well, it was interesting because it felt so organic to me, and the music always did. It was like it always resonated with me, that East Bay type of funk and the syncopation and interactiveness of it. It was like Herbie Hancock's Thrust record, and the Headhunters. That was all kind of born of the same East Bay with Paul Jackson and Mike Clark. And so I always heard stuff the same on the stage, percolating. It was just really
Mhm.
fun to
Sorry.
do. So I always, and I loved playing the horn parts. For me, the most interesting thing was playing parts that I had, I had played in cover bands many times, and they'd want to, oh, let's do this song, and you're trying to figure out the harmony on Squib Cakes, and then you realize, oh, after you're hanging with Greg Adams, then when you did the overdub, you actually changed notes, and so that's why it
Mhm.
sounded so cool and able to sound bigger, than it was.
Yeah, he as by the third chorus, the voicings had changed.
Yeah,
If you listen to it, it's not. It'll be the same rhythms, can be the same part, but they change and probably do. I always feel playing the first tenor chair that sometimes I'm actually playing parts. I'm playing parts in the altissimo, and it's like I'm playing third trumpet.
yeah,
It's actually I feel like I'm playing a third trumpet part and having to be supportive to the trumpets. I feel like I'm part of that part of the section sometimes,
yeah.
which is kind of fun. Because actually I am a frustrated trumpet player. I did play trumpet for like 3-4 years, and I don't know why I stopped, but that's
I owned a
another story.
flugelhorn for a minute. Too much pain.
Yeah, at this point it'd be too much pain. I picked up a trumpet. It's just yeah, and just think of all the trumpet players that don't have work. They have to practice more than
Yeah,
we do, because because we have a reed. The pressure on the corners, the muscles in the corners of our mouth and here aren't quite. They don't go out of shape as fast.
although I do get fatigued if I don't practice or play, I should say, enough.
Yeah.
When I do go on a gig, like on a
Yeah.
Corinthians concert, if I haven't been playing like a week before I'll go out of town that intensely, when you're doing a gig like that where you are the lead voice and you got solos on every song, and then a
Mm-hmm.
couple of the longer blows are at the end of the show. And so by
Mm-hmm.
a couple of those tunes, I'm thinking, okay, I need to do some long tones.
Oh man,
So,
I tell you, yeah.
Well, I'm not a sax player. I'm a fan of being a sax player, and I know there's a lot of sax players watching right now. Gary Meek is watching,
oh, Gary, hi, Gary.
and
Hey
Beautiful
Gary,
player.
I got to play golf. I love Gary's playing, and we've been talking on Facebook. We finally got to play golf, like less than a week before we had to shut down all this stuff. So we got to do a hang on the golf course with him and Dennis Murphy and I forget who's the other guy, Gary. You can type it in there, but
That was
and
yeah,
area like Monterey or
Katya Reicherman is watching as well.
Katya.
I got you.
So, Brandon, do you play golf?
Oh, I tried one time and I was so bad. And it's actually a funny story because I remember going out on the golf course with Greg Smith, who was an amazing Barry player, and
I know who that Greg Smith is.
and who else? Albert Wing was there, a great friend of mine, a great sax player. Walt Fowler, who is a great golfer to this day. He like kind of did that and stuck with it.
Oh,
We're talking
really?
maybe 80, 81 or something, somewhere around there that we all went out to Griffith Park and we're walking around playing golf. And we may have been artificially adjusted in our perception of reality, but
Yeah.
we could not hit the ball. We were just laughing and everything. It was fun to be out in nature. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And some of the guys, most of us were just horrible and just like hung in the back and appreciated the guys that could actually hit the ball.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like the one good thing that I'm allowed to do is golf, and that's the one thing I think that I'm pretty into it. So I'm actually thinking of like maybe I can get some work in the golf industry while this thing shut down. I don't know. I've always liked being out of the golf course. So
Yeah, you could be a sax playing golf pro. You could walk around.
Yeah,
Head on one shoulder and a golf bag on the other.
And
Yeah.
you get out to the middle of one of the fairways, you pull out your horn and start playing, and while you're waiting for people to catch up.
There's
Never
actually
take it too long. Blast a few blow B flats at them. Get them moving.
the Northern California Golf Association did these profiles on people, and about 12 years ago, the guy who wrote the article played trumpet and is a golfer, but he asked me to do it, and he came here, and I live on a golf course, so we did that shot, with me with a couple saxophones in my golf bag. I should put that up as my profile picture again. I haven't. I'll go find that one.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're going to have a new business card made, for
exactly. Yeah, I
know. It'd be
know.
a new great double. Those guys
Yeah.
are messing around with clarinet and flute, and you could play golf.
So tell everybody who's listening some of the you were talking about some of the things you have planned to release, and hopefully will still release even if we're shut down.
Oh,
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, one of the things that it's been forcing me to do a little bit is to spend some time with some older records of mine that I've had transferred to digital from the original 2-inch tapes. And so I've been able to go through and edit those a little bit and remix them. And I'm in the process of the second one. I did an album of Stevie Wonder tunes that came out in the 90s that not many people are aware of. It was a Japanese project. So I'm going to probably do some, little version of that. So I can just sell it on gigs. And then I'm releasing an album of standards that I did called Fields of Strings. It came out in 2000, and I've got that remixed, and really liking how that sounds. So
I'm excited about the Stevie. You said you're doing Stevie Wonder tunes, because one of the things that well, I love so many things about your playing, but one of the things I really love about your playing is the way you blow melody. And I find a lot of cats don't put enough time in. I hear cats playing sometimes at clubs, and they don't seem like they put any time or effort into playing the melody and singing the melody and making the melody. And, like when you play a ballad melody to me, I mean, I get goosebumps and teary eyed. I mean, just like a singer would, So you doing those Stevie Wonder tunes, and I always thought you were just an alto player. And then when I heard you play tenor, I got really pissed off. I went like, shit, I don't know which is better, is tenor tone or is alto tone? I go, they both rock. Me too.
Well,
so you really,
it's got through
your personality. Your personality on all three of those horns is really, really solid individual personality to where you're just a sax player.
Oh, thanks. I remember when I did the Standards record, Don Heckman from the LA Times came up and heard me at Rocco's Jazz Club in Bel Air, and he really enjoyed the whole concert. But his last paragraph said the only thing about Brandon's performance I didn't care for was he tends to sound the same on soprano, alto, and tenor. And I thought that was an interesting thing to say. And then it turns out that Jerry Hay, my friend, great trumpet player and arranger, he read that review and he immediately wrote me. He goes, I thought that was the whole point, to sound like yourself on whatever you're playing. And I thought, yeah. And I said, that's the case. But sometimes we work with, I have obvious restrictions there. I have better range on alto and tenor than I do on soprano. Everything is, you kind of have to embrace the limitations and find your way, your personality in that, I think.
But you also know what I mean too. It's like some people who are all play alto all the time, and then they decide they're going to double on a gig on tenor, and they do kind of sound like an alto player playing tenor. That's kind of what I mean. They're going to sound like. We're always going to sound like ourselves. We can't. It's like I'm sure we all get the mouthpiece question. And I remember going to my Phil Woods clinic when I was in college, and Phil Woods goes, I play I play an old New York Meyer 5 or 6, and I use a 3 reed, and it doesn't play like any of the Meyers you're going to find out there, and it doesn't matter what you play because you're going to sound like you no matter what you play. You just find something that works for you, because you're not going to be able to sound like me if you play my mouthpiece. You won't sound like me.
Yeah,
but I try to explain that to young players.
I do think there are certain characteristics of mouthpieces that do lead in a certain direction, especially when you have the joy of in a great saxophone section and you're realizing if you're blending or not. That's one of the things I really appreciate.
Yeah. So, like, if you do a whole sax section by yourself, do you change mouthpieces for a different take if you're going to do like 2 tenor parts, or change horns?
No,
to try to get a little more.
I have thought about. I've made slight adjustments sometimes if I'm doing a double. If I'm doing a double track, maybe if I have another horn handy, I'll play it. Or if it's a tenor part and they want it double, I'll say, well, let me play it on alto. I'll do something
Okay.
like that just to give it so it doesn't sound like that same aliasing, which I don't like. I do love the sound of doubling, but I think you kind of have to know when to double and when not to double, and then to realize that you do want to hear a different personality a little bit.
By the way, Gary Meek put on he said, Brandon plays the shit out of melodies. So there you go. Gary Meek
Thanks,
said
Gary.
that.
Well, I will say that when I started playing, it was I was playing along with the radio. So if it had a sax solo, I'd kind of like hang out for that. But I remember when I was a kid, that song "Me and Mrs. Jones" was being played a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm thinking mid '60s in Fountain Valley, California, where when I was about 10 years old, and I think that was at the time, and so it was. I was really enjoying playing a lot, getting the vocal nuances, and then going ahead and learning the sax solo, or kind of. So it was all kind of a stream of consciousness, or let's say connected to the same story. So I've kind of been aware of that. I will say that when I did this revisited the Stevie Wonder project, I was thinking I should have listened to Stevie's vocals a little more. A couple things.
One of the things I haven't done in a long time, I did in the 90s, and I got to do it as I would learn Stevie's harmonica solos on sax, because his harmonica solos are just so in the pocket and beautiful.
Yeah.
And, and they're simple, but I mean, they're simple,
Well, his whole sense of musicality is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just reminded me of that. Hey, I really want to hear some tower stories from you. Having us both been in the band, like you were in the band for like 3-4 years, weren't you?
No, I never joined because I had released my fourth album when I got the call to go play, and that was directly as a result of doing some sessions with Lee Thornburg in town, and I think Greg Adams knew of me, and so I was kind of like I slid into the spot for that. But that was August of. Oh, and Steve Grove, who was in the band before, he got some. I think he went with Tina Turner, if I'm remembering right. So he had to leave like mid tour or something happened, and so they had it worked out in advance, and they sent me charts and cassettes. But because they were on the road, we never had a chance to get together. And like I said before we started airing, that was music that I really enjoyed as a player. So so it was kind of like I enjoyed everything. Everything made sense, and so I was able to get the feel for it really quick. But I lost track a little bit there. But so Lee got me on the gig, and we went out. And the first time I flew to the Bay Area, and they picked me up at the airport. We went and stopped at E&J's Barbecue in Oakland, and that was a big traditional thing with them.
And still do that.
Then we went straight to the sound check. And so this, I haven't played anything with them at all. And we ran 3 songs. And as soon as I walked up on stage, before I even played a note, I got goosebumps. But then we played 3 songs, and Emilio just looked over at me and he goes, "Sounds good. We're done." So that was it for Subject. They were on the road a lot. They don't need to do a long rehearsal. They don't want to. So as long as he had a sense that I was going to, play the parts, then.
So did you have anything memorized at that point,
no.
or were you reading the stuff?
No,
reading charts.
I was reading Greg's manuscript.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you?
And then,
were you there?
Sorry.
Were you there long enough to start memorizing stuff, or?
Oh yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
So
I did, what happened was I came on. I remember what my thought was. I had my 4th album had come out, and so but I loved this. I loved the band so much. So when the opportunity arose, I really wanted to go and do it. And I ended up doing it for a year and a half the first time. I think through like from August of '91, maybe to late '92. And I think we did an 11-week tour of Europe, and we came back, and then Emilio was really wanting to lock it in, and so I said, "Oh, I love playing with the band," but I think then they ended up Gary Herbig did it for a little while, and I just wanted to get kind of back to studio work, whatever.
I didn't know that
career was in town.
Yeah.
So Gary did it, and then Dave Mann did it from New York.
Yeah.
And then so when Dave was doing it,
right.
they were splitting up. Dave would do the East Coast dates, and I would do the West Coast dates.
Oh,
And
wow.
that
I
was the
didn't know.
'95 band with Herman Matthews.
Okay.
So I was back and I did a bunch of dates with them then, and then then I hadn't talked to them. So that was 92, not 95. And the next time I talked to him was I called immediately out of the blue in 2008, right before the 40th anniversary. And I was dating a woman in Ashland, Oregon. And so I was
I
up there
remember
hanging
that.
out. And it turns out I was playing with this band that was opening for Tower in Grand Junction.
I remember that gig. That's
You
right. I
remember the
remember that
gig?
gig.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so you've been with them so
I,
long. It's like you are a charter member, essentially.
yeah. 18
Yeah.
years. But I mean,
So I happened to call him out of the blue just to let him know that I was in town and going to play the opening band. And he goes, he didn't drop a beat. He said, "B man," which he always called me.
yeah,
So I
that's
told him, he
right. He
goes,
does.
"Oh man, that's great. You got to come up and play with us." So it's just I
Yeah.
love those moments where just nothing's lost. You just pick right up where you left off.
I know it's like that. I think when any alumni comes in,
Yeah.
it's pretty much you're welcome. A couple hellos here. Yvonne Kupka is watching. She says hi.
Hi.
And Alex Budman. Hey Alex. He says Brandon plays the shit out of the radio. I like that. But you said you play along with the radio, so that $80. Thank you for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Do you guys know that Alex can juggle? Alex is a master juggler.
Yeah, he juggles and he'll sit there and what did he do? He does a video where he's juggling two balls and he's playing. I forget what tune he's playing on clarinet, but he's having to jump around the octaves because he's only playing with the left hand on clarinet, and he's juggling one ball.
Him telling me that something like that.
He's juggling and playing. I mean, it's like it's scary, and he's playing scary good. And plus, that guy's Alex is a monster.
Yeah.
A couple of questions here. One was, why don't the two of you play something together? And like right now, this platform unfortunately doesn't really work well for that.
Yeah. It's gonna sound like a kazoo. Yeah. It's gonna sound.
I was relating that experience before.
We should actually get a couple kazoos and we can play.
And then, who did Brandon have the most fun touring with?
Well, I'll tell you, every gig with Tower was great. It'd be easier to tell you the bands that I did not have the most fun with. But yeah, I mean, I really had, there was a while in the early '90s that George Duke was putting some bands together. And I did a show at Wembley Arena with Bonnie Raitt and Anita Baker and Natalie Cole. And I remember that being a standout gig. It was freezing cold out. But George always put together great bands. And he led this band that was at the Guitar Festival in Sevilla, Spain. And that was a blast. And that was with my old, I really enjoyed playing with George Benson too in '85 and '86. And I really love playing with the Rippingtons now after all these years. I didn't play with them for 25 years, I think. I played on a couple of studio records since I stopped playing live with them. But they have been traveling and performing during that whole time. And so I went back. I went back 4 years ago, and I've been having more fun than I ever had in the early days when it was a little too hard to get out and travel with that much gear.
Yeah.
That's when I actually had
a
case that would go
on. We crossed paths about 2-3 years ago, and I can't remember what city.
Oh,
we played the same festival. San Antonio. Yeah. Good memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The festivals never served that band very well. I always like.
And Wayne Bergeron was there too, hanging out. We all had a nice hang.
Yeah. I remember going to the bar at the hotel after that.
Yeah. That was a nice hang. And that's kind of the cool thing. That's what I love about festivals, just seeing all these people that, festivals are big hangs. They're big, music.
Yeah. As
and
long
you get
as
to meet
more than a line check for me, because that's one of my pet peeves is when we have to go on cold and you're usually playing a shortened set, which I'm a big fan of playing a club. Give me a club any day of the week that sounds good and it's more intimate. You can actually hear the sound of the person's horn, and that's more the comfort zone. And I feel it's kind of hard to really get that type of intimate connection on a big stage at a jazz festival with questionable sound sometimes.
This is definitely true, but you can't beat the backstage hangs.
No, backstage hangs that's really the best thing about any of those experiences.
Yeah. So,
but there are some that are classically great, like uh, Newport Jazz Festival. I remember that was great. And there's a clip of me playing with the band then, and that like they recorded the whole concert, and that was one of the better ones.
So, Brandon, I have a couple of questions for you. First, I want to tell the story that every guest that I've had on, I can find either a picture of Tom Politzer with them or Dennis Moody.
Well, yeah, I got both.
Right? So I'm telling you, the two of them somehow have photobombed every one of my guests. So this this is my question, because I've seen lots of pictures with you and Dennis. In addition to the touring, I know that you've done a lot of session work. What kind of session work have you done? Movies, TVs, those kinds of things, or studio albums for other artists like Natalie Cole, those kinds of people? What has been your involvement in those kinds of things?
Early meaning 1983, I had done a gig with Les Hooper, who's a great writer here in town, and piano player. And he had a band that a good buddy of mine, Dave Boroff, who really got me on a lot of gigs, got me on the George Benson gig, and then the Joan Rivers house band gig after that. Great player, and they did a 2-sax band, so we did a record with him. Anyway, Les had heard me at this festival that I was hired as a guest, and he was hired as a guest. So he started using me for commercial dates back when we actually had jingle work in this town. And there was an episodic show called The Master that was on network TV. So that was my first experience, playing live at the same time for a TV show. And that was like, because they couldn't reuse, you can't edit things like you can now with Pro Tools. So whatever thing they had to change for the next week, or you were employed, every week. And so that was, imagine all the players that came here through the heyday of, the detective shows like Mannix and Ironside. The studio work was off the hook in this town. And great writing, great players came in, all the cats that came off the big bands. So there was a lot of great blood here in town.
Do you remember you mentioned Mannix, the theme from Mannix? I always love that tune.
Yeah.
Nice jazz waltz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so
my experience was like that.
I have to ask you. I believe you did Barbra Streisand's last tour.
Yeah.
What was that like?
High stress.
High stress.
I mean, amazing because of all the players, and she was great. It was great to work with her, but it was just high stress because she had decided that she actually gave this mandate to Randy Waldman. Like, mandate's the right word. Said, Randy, if you can cut down the band, and if I can like how it sounds without having all the 60-piece orchestra there, then I'll book some gigs. So
okay,
it's an experiment. When she first came in, it was a 10-piece band. And this is a woman that always traveled with a 60-piece orchestra, like full strings and, almost a big band of horns.
And travel, didn't hire the local orchestra. Travel.
No, she would travel with, this is top echelon we're talking, There was a lot of money spent in the organization getting people around the planet. And so it was all great, this idea of having a small band, but all of a sudden now I'm looking at playing 7 instruments and a couple charts. I'm jumping around so much that I've never really been that secure about certain doubles anyway.
Okay.
But you're jumping around, jumping through these hoops, and you've got to come in. After you play like a lead saxophone melody line, then you've got to come in pianissimo like on a high E on flute or a high F sharp on flute, and that's the kind of stuff that you're sitting there by yourself because there's nobody else. There was only me and a violinist. We're the only acoustic instruments representing an orchestra. So I was playing the lead part for the clarinets, flutes, and saxophones, and he was playing all the lead violin parts. And then we had 3 keyboardists who were playing all the other parts on samples. So it was an amazing experience. And all I can tell you is I never really heard how it came out. Like I never knew what it sounded like out in the house or
Wow.
or anything. I just knew that I was just so involved in playing this. And then the other challenging thing about her gig is that it's like I like to say that the band was like an accompanying instrument. It was like a piano player comping for a singer, except this is the band comping for a singer. Meaning that
Really?
she is so in the moment, and rightfully so. She's telling a story, and it's very free where that can go. So you've got to follow her, and it was actually a thrilling experience to be part of a band that could move along with the singer's intended passionate, departures veering
She.
out of one tempo into another. We had a lot of segues. There were parts of some of the Broadway show tunes, like "Don't Rain on My Parade" and things like that, that were really challenging, difficult enough technically to play. But you've got all these tempo changes within the song, and you've got to be right with her, knowing how she might milk one phrase. Or so that was a very good, thrilling experience.
So you were playing to track some of the time, like you
Only
saying
on
you
a
playing
couple of tracks, only on a couple songs.
oh,
Uh,
okay.
Maybe one of
Okay,
the
because I was saying it.
tunes, and
Yeah, because I mean, I was trying to figure because I always thought you were playing to tracks, but obviously, if she's if she's singing real rubato and changing tempos, you can't play to a track.
well,
So,
we did have one we did have a lot of tracks that now that I'm remembering, but they would be other instruments like a boat whistle on one song, or
mhm.
and then we had our man Joe was off stage, and he was incredible, like following. He would so Randy the Waldman, the great piano player and conductor, he would turn around and cue Joe just like he would anybody in the band, because he would have to hit certain moments to trigger the track again based on where she was.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like,
Crazy. Wow.
it's really because I haven't had that much orchestral experience. I guess playing on movie scores was the closest to that, and that's probably the second
Mhm.
part of your question, Jeff, about movie dates.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did a lot in the early '90s again, late '80s, early '90s, and then not so much of it anymore.
Mm. Well, was thinking with the Barbara Streisand thing, did they have synth players playing string and horn parts?
Yeah, there were three other keyboardists
Mm.
outside of Randy, who was playing mostly piano,
Hmm.
and so they would play samples of, or and it took a long time to find strings and woodwinds that she liked the sound of, but eventually we did. I guess she liked what she was hearing out front. However, the engineer was able to blend the samples and the live players together. But
Hmm.
Would she ever hang with you or the guys in the band ever, or
she, at
never?
rehearsals sometimes there was, it wasn't like she wouldn't come down. She usually stay at a different hotel, so with
Okay.
the A group we called them. So that was all management. And
Yeah.
but she, she was, I think, because of all the rumors going around, everything else, she was really nice. That's all I can tell you to all of it.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Cool.
And really respect her for following what she hears and feels. And it's that's always a good lesson to me, uh, to be reminded that music lives in your heart and your soul, not in your ability to speak in musicese. Let's
Hmm.
speak the
Hmm.
music language, like to talk about specific notes and tempos, and you can
Hmm.
speak just enough to get the intention to the band about how she wants something, to feel
Yeah.
exciting or forlorn, or any more descriptive phrases that would be maybe from the Broadway
To,
training, but I found it very
yeah.
inspiring.
Yeah. To where you think she's actually feeling the emotion you're getting from her singing,
Yeah,
that she's actually like emoting that and feeling that. And that's kind of an interesting question because, like, I feel the same way when I'm playing and I'm playing well or playing a good solo. I'm thinking of emotion or just, I'm not thinking of, when we go kind of stop thinking about what we're playing and it just sort of comes out.
right.
That's usually, and it's just
I
like,
like getting
especially,
lost in the story, enjoying the
yeah,
journey.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I'm just thinking as you were telling you about her and performing with her and hearing her singing, she has got to be one of the most talented, gifted singers ever in being able to sing a story and move from chest voice to head voice and go
Yeah.
breathy and sing strong. And not everybody can do all of those
Oh, wow.
things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, and her ability goes way back, when she was a kid. And seeing some of clips that they would show some old clips during the show, and you'd really get a sense,
Really cool.
what her abilities were. And still, her ability to sing something out of nowhere, and a lot of times just be spot on with where she wanted it, pitch wise and time wise and all that.
wow.
So I got to hit you. So we're talking soprano, alto, tenor, bari, clarinet, flute, alto, flute, piccolo. I mean,
With
you said
her,
7 instruments.
yeah,
Yeah.
it started off soprano, alto, tenor, flute, alto flute, piccolo,
Okay.
and clarinet. So I never played clarinet before, and
Oh,
most of my friends
really?
would not be surprised. Most of my friends were surprised to know when I
That's
took the gig. Randy Waldman asked me to
wow.
do it, and I said, "Randy, isn't there clarinet on her gig?" He goes, "Of course." I said, "Randy, I've never played clarinet." He said, "Well, just pick it up." And
Holy
so
shit.
I thought,
That's
"Oh man,
that's what
do I want to
that's
do
what I
this?
started on.
Do I want to do this at this advanced
Yeah.
stage?"
I didn't start playing saxophone until halfway through my junior year in high school. I was a clarinet player.
Well, it's easier
And
to
I was
go that direction than the other direction, I think.
yeah, I mean, and I was a classical clarinet major for a couple years in college too. So
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because from a drummer's perspective, who was playing drums with Barbara?
Dave Tull.
Oh,
I know that
Yeah,
name.
great.
yeah.
South Pasadena or something, but yeah.
Why
Yeah.
do I know Dave Toll?
Did you ever hear? I
That's a familiar name.
Toll that did that really weird Christmas song.
I'm sorry, what?
It wasn't it Dave Toll that did that really odd Christmas song.
I think it was. If it was something he plays and sings and has, I think some comedic albums out or comedy albums.
Yeah, yeah,
Comedy albums.
Wow.
yeah. That's and he's a great drummer,
Yeah.
and I have heard him sing.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions for Brandon on your watch party? You're going there.
That's what I was looking. I was just scrolling back. I had to scroll here. Um, I'll give a shout out. To Sam Skelton. Hey Sam, thanks for tuning in. You know Sam
I don't think so.
Skelton from Atlanta, badass saxophone player.
Oh, maybe I have met him before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I know of him.
They got a pretty thriving music scene in Atlanta these days.
My friend Suck Memories.
Well, it was thriving. I mean, nothing's thriving now.
Nothing is thriving.
So,
if it's floating, that would be
Yeah.
Brandon, have you ever had any students or done any kind of teaching at all?
Yeah.
Do you have any now? Are you trying to do any Zoom with teaching?
I have not. I had a couple inquiries into it, and then I think, and I fell back because one of them I didn't get back to yet. But the Wi-Fi reception in my studio is sketchy enough that I didn't really want to try to do it. I just felt it'd be too frustrating with cutting in and out.
One of the things that seems to be happening now with everybody being stuck at home, and like you said, you were trying to get an iRig, and as you found out, they're not available, and they're back ordered, and because everybody now is trying to figure out how they're going to do this and manage from their home.
Right. And they might not even be good. There might be some problems with them. There were a bunch of bad reviews, and it's the cheapest Class A mic pre option, that you can get.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is, no matter what we do, we're still subject to the internet, and the more people are on the internet, the worse it gets.
Right.
So
absolutely.
I mean, we're all having to, like, as much as I would love to have you guys play and have great audio, it's just kind of impossible really to get really good audio unless I heard the other day somebody watched Chick Corea doing something with Marcus Miller. Yeah.
What?
Hey,
Did you see that? And they had
I did
trouble.
not see it, but I was curious because that's the same time that I did my little concert in my studio with my pal Joey Navarro, and
Mhm.
a four piece group. And when I watched it, when I heard it later, I go, "Oh man, my sax sounds like a kazoo. It sounds like paper over a comb." You know. So
Yeah.
that's why now I'm on a
and that's
mission to find some better way.
and that's the most annoying thing. I tell you, I get so frustrated when I go on a session and I listen back and I go like, "What's going on? That's not." It sounds better on my iPhone.
Yeah.
My recorder sounds better on my iPhone. What are you doing? And I've noticed like so many guys, I say, it sounds like you have compression on there. And no, it's like they always want to see. I said, turn the goddamn compressor off.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'll tell you what, I'll work the mic a little bit. All right. Trust me. I was like,
I always say it's really simple. Set it low enough so it's not peaking. Let me play, and then if you want to use compression on it later, fine. But all you have to
yeah,
do is get a hot enough signal digitally, and you're good. But you can't
yeah,
take compression away once it's been too heavily added.
I know.
I do want to say something about your sound, Brandon, because I have had the privilege of doing sound for you twice, and I think one was with Greg Adams, and there was one that for somebody else. But I just remember that you brought your own mic, and you
Yeah,
know how you wanted it to sound, and I didn't have to do a lot to it, and it just
yeah,
sounded great. So there's you and George Shelby and Tom. I've done sound for the three of you guys, and the one thing as a sound guy that I know is it's really wonderful when somebody can play, and I don't have to do anything to it because
yeah,
the kind of horn players I'm talking about. They might have a really good reputation, but the sound is really thin, But when you guys come out, you have that really nice big fat sound that you don't have to do
a
anything
good thing.
to. I love that,
Yeah,
So
that's the goal. I think that the older I've gotten, the more I've been luckily to pay attention and remember these situations where that maybe the blend wasn't so good, or you're trying to be able to communicate better with somebody, and you have to realize that how we hear our sounds isn't necessarily how the engineer hears our sounds or wants to hear our sounds.
Mhm.
So, it,
Mm,
it's
I don't care
it's not.
how he
Yeah,
wants
I
to.
know. I don't care either because I feel like if you respect me enough, if I'm here, because you didn't just look up sax player in the union book and say, "Oh, I heard Brandon Fields. He plays saxophone. I'm going to call this guy." If you're there, and that's
Oh
the way
my
a lot of
God.
early work happens until you are called to sound like you. Then it's like, "Oh, I'll call this guy because he can sound like Dave Sanborn or anything." That's the way the reality of a lot of work. That's how I got a lot of early work. You know.
I got to tell you a story. We toured with David Sanborn for several years
Yeah.
with Tower. So in Europe and in the United States, and through that, we became friends,
Yeah.
and which is great because he's one of my biggest heroes. And he told me he was telling a story one day about how the record the session work in New York has gone down, and he goes, these sessions are weird, and he said he knew it was kind of at the end of the session time when he got hired to do a session, and it says solo here, and then it's with instructions saying Sanborn-esque,
Yeah.
and he went like, did they know who they were hiring? I mean, am I
Yeah.
and he just saw that, and he just went like, really?
Yeah. But at least it was him. At least
It was like, yeah,
it's worse when if it had been somebody of his stature who had contributed that much stylistic forward motion of the saxophone, as far as I'm concerned. It
yeah,
would have been worse if he'd walked in and then there was some youngster who was a knockoff, and to sound like that guy who was trying
yeah,
to him. You know.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to ask because you said something earlier that about Scotts Valley. Was that where you said, Brandon?
Scotts Valley.
Yeah. Where did you grow up?
Oh, Fountain Valley.
Indi-
I was talking. That was Orange County,
Indiana.
California.
Oh, Indiana.
No, no,
Aren't you from
no.
Aren't you from Indiana?
I was born in Indiana, but my folks got me out of there. Thank you.
Oh, oh.
when I was
How old?
I was a year
How?
old. I was a year old and they got me in. So that's like
Oh,
an inside family joke. And every time I see
oh.
my folks, if we're at a gig, I said, "Hey, today, thank you for getting me out of Indiana." Thank you.
So where did you grow up here in
I
California?
grew up in Orange County, which I thank myself for getting me out of Orange County. I
Hey,
I got I so yeah, I grew up in Orange County, but from age 7 on. So I went to elementary school in Fountain Valley, and then middle school and high school, and 1 year of college in Santa Ana.
Oh, Fountain Valley. That's
Fountain
what you said.
Valley, next to
Oh,
Santa
okay.
Ana. Which,
Yeah.
if you're going to be from Orange County, Santa Ana gets my vote for the most holistic, well-rounded community you could be a part of, most culturally diverse.
Santa.
I was playing
okay.
quinceañeras when I was, 15 and 16,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was and then we were playing Tower Power tunes. I was in this. It was a Mexican band, like we played traditional Mexican music called Los Chicos, and the two kids were my age and their dad, and they were all worked in the roofing business. So on the weekends they'd book these gigs, and a lot of good players throughout Orange County came through this band, and we'd play traditional rancheros and cumbias, but then the kids liked to play Tower Power, so we'd also play Oakland Stroke, and we'd play other things that. And it was the most hilarious experience, Tom, to see people dancing the long solos. And it doesn't matter as long as it's grooving, they would dance as long as you were playing solos, and it felt good. And I remember
Oh,
years later being in a tux on my first Beverly Hills Casual, and I'm playing
wow.
Girl from Ipanema, and I take a solo, and I start to go into a second chorus, and I feel this guy next to me, the tenor player, hitting my leg. He looks at me and goes, "One chorus only, one chorus only." What?
Wow.
You can't stretch too much for the
Wow. That
when you're
reminds me.
lead.
So besides being in Tower for 18 years, my gig in the Bay Area for a solid 7 was playing in a club band.
Yep.
We did plenty of called Spangalang with a singer named Tony Lindsay. You know Tony, right?
I
The
know the
singer
name
Tony Lindsay.
if I met him.
Tony was with Santana for 22 years, and
Oh, wow.
he was, that's kind of why he left Spangling. But that was the same thing. We were like a 5 piece. I was the only horn player, and as long as we were grooving and people were dancing, I mean, I would play. That's where I learned to play. I learned to play in that band because I played 3 minutes. I'm
Yeah.
sure I played a 5 minute solo in there somewhere on one gig. I'm
Yeah, well,
sure.
those are good. Those are the good casuals.
Yeah. Well, no, these were at clubs. Like dance. Dance clubs. You
Oh, they
know.
were. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of like my early top 40 band experience.
Yeah.
We called
It's
them.
it's, it's, it was really great. It was a really great way to nothing like getting to do that night after night on the gig.
Oh yeah,
It's
just
yeah,
good
it was
face
really
time with the
invaluable.
horn.
Yeah. And just the whole interaction with the audience and just having to perform and yeah.
So I just want to say the last time I saw you play, Brandon, was for a birthday party at the baked potato for you. Was your like a
Oh,
birthday, and you every time you a birthday you were playing at the baked potato. And my good friend Mitch Foreman was there, and I don't remember everybody else in the band, but all I know is it fucking sounded great.
Hmm. Mitch
I love
Foreman.
that place. That's like my
It,
homeboy from home.
yeah, so I was talking to Walter
They,
Rodriguez the other day. He was saying that he thinks that that the people at Baked Potato want to do some sort of live streaming or something.
Yeah, they're set up for it, and I think they've already made a couple attempts. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Justin to see how it came out, but that's the goal.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've been working with people trying to find out the best way to live stream, and there's a couple of programs and stuff, but to really make it good, the money gets pricey to be able to
Well, I
get it.
think that's what I've been looking at too, and I think there are some options. I've just been watching a whole lot of YouTube videos
Mm-hmm.
about various camera and microphone options.
Right.
And it comes down to if I think next time I'm going to try my studio, I'm going to run through my studio and I'll use
Right.
Verb. Like I'll open up Logic and I'll just use some of my music software and just take a stereo line out of that to a mixer, so at least it'll sound more direct like it would in a club. And then I'll still put a live mic up in the room and put that through the system as well, so it does capture more of what you'd be able to hear in a club.
Right. And the issue with like Zoom and this platform I'm using, they're the least expensive of the ones, and they have a lot of voice suppression, or they're optimized for voice. The more money you pay on, there are some platforms like Vimeo has something, and there's another one called StreamYard, where they're computer based. So when you go through your device and your mixer straight into the computer, you don't have all that scrunching of the sound that like Zoom and this platform does, that suppresses the audio as outside or background noise. Right. So the minute we're talking, if there's a frequency, like if you would play your horn and it would sound like it's something other than just a voice, it squashes it right away.
That's part of the confusion that I felt when we did the live band in my studio. It's, I'm thinking, I've played solo saxophone into my phone and it was fine. It wasn't my best sound ever, but it didn't sound like paper on a comb. So
it was passable.
Yeah. But when I watched this back, and because it was congas and bass and keyboard and my Fender Rhodes and me, and I thought that's not too much to be thrown at the phone. But I think there is some kind of some of the software, or whatever is happening, that separates the sound or doesn't let is inclusionary to good sound.
So I have a question, because my buddy, very good friend of mine, sax player from Germany, his name's Torsten Skringer, plays in a band called the Heavy Tones, which actually used to be a TV band and now a great band. And they just did a remote thing. It's 3 horns and a rhythm section, and they did a kind of an Earth, Wind, and Fire kind of tribute thing, and it's freaking great. I mean, sonically, they all recorded in their separate spots. And he put it up there, and I go like, and I'm thinking about this. I'm going like, should we be putting this stuff up for free? Because I mean, one, we're not making any money, and all our gigs are gone, and also the devaluation of what people can perceive, especially younger people, perceive what music is worth, because we have Spotify and iTunes and how Spotify and those basically said, we're not paying you any royalties. And then the CEO of Spotify is a bill greedy bastard. I'm just going like, should we be? And I see guys all the time. I understand maybe some people have a brand. So I can see that if you don't have a brand or you haven't been working a lot, you kind of want to keep yourself out there. But it's like, Tower. I'm pretty sure people will be ready to hear Tower.
Yeah.
But should we be putting out something just free? Like, we've actually started talking about doing something, and I go like, I don't know. I think we should at least put out a PayPal or Vim. What is the other Venmo, PayPal? And then you ask for contributions.
Yeah. So so you treat it like a live gig, which I like the idea of that. But for me personally, as an artist, I just want it to represent what I sound like. If it's not,
first,
sound is a big deal for me. And if I can't have the depth of sound that I want, then it really doesn't matter how good a shit I'm playing. The content falls by the wayside if I'm not moved if the sound doesn't draw me in. If I'm scrolling around YouTube looking for videos, guess which ones I'm landing on are the ones with great sound, and there are plenty of them. Where you can tell you get a direct feed, and then you get some squirrely, and usually they're festivals where it sounds like somebody's got an iPhone out in the audience, and you can't really tell. That happens to all of us. I've seen Tower videos like that up there, and then there's ones that sound like it's in a studio. So I know it's possible to do that, and you can get, it depends the care and the equipment you're using.
Did you see Dennis Moody's comment?
No.
Jeff?
What? No. Where was? I mean, he mentioned a couple of.
He goes Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, I didn't notice the U under there instead of the
und Fire. You should have written F-U. Why do you spell Feuer? Und Feuer in German.
Dennis is the first guy that I stayed with when I moved to LA.
Whoa.
Really?
He let me sleep
Oh,
in his
wow.
pad for like 2 weeks, and he was a really good friend of the Fowler brothers, and he worked at Paramount Recording. He was working with, I think, Zappa and definitely George Duke, and
Yeah.
that's like in the heyday of it. So all those guys were connected. It was a big hang, and so Dennis and I go way back, and he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've you and you guys do a lot of stuff over at Dave Weckel's house.
We have before. We did something for Dave's birthday, but I did the last session I did for Dave at his house was maybe a few years ago now for a project that he had. But
Dennis is a great audio engineer, and I had him on the show, and he's got great stories. But of all of the drummers with drums, I'm sorry, I'm
yeah,
kind of drums. Dave Weckel
yeah,
drum sounds.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, when I had the question about which bands that I really enjoy playing with, Dave's band is one of the ones, and Gary can attest to this. I think I got more shit together faster than any other band because it was the level of musicianship and what the songs required was pretty significant. And again, you're the one guy. You're the lead vocal, and you're also playing solos and everything. So in a quartet setting, I hadn't had that intensive an experience. I told Dave, when I left the band, I said that was you did more for my playing than anybody.
Mm.
So I know you know Daryl Walker.
Yeah.
And Daryl said that he set up an Eventbrite virtual event, and he charged $10 a ticket.
Yeah.
So there's things that we can do, but I think what you were saying is we just need to get the sound right. And it's somebody commented about microphones and everything. It really has everything to do with the platform, the streaming platform that you send. It has nothing to do with mics or it's all how the computer sends to the stream. It's that the more money you spend on a streaming software, the better sound you get.
And can you hook
So
those
it's
streaming softwares up with Facebook and the other?
Yeah. And then to even the thing is to try to go to your own site, like have your own site that you can stream to. Facebook gets the worst audio quality. And
really.
they have their issues. YouTube is better. And if what some of the churches have been doing this for a long time, right? So churches, they get really good sound, but they go through a nice streaming device and go like a computer that's set up only with high-end streaming software, and they go to their own web page, so they have a lot more control over it, and then they feed it to Facebook. But Facebook, generally speaking, it's glitchy and the audio is never really that good.
Well, I've seen things on Facebook. Like I did, you talk about churches. So Ron Walters Jr., my great friend, he's the MD for Barry Manilow, who I played with for about 5 years. He was doing something after this all went down. He said, "I want to do an Easter service," and he's big in the church community. So he said, "If you guys want to, do this, I know there's not much going on, but so we got the old horn section back just to do this thing for Ron, Chris Gray, and Steve Baxter and we each recorded from our own studios and layered the parts, and then we videoed on our phones, and then he just used the video from their phones, but we recorded into our own software. So I gave him Logic tracks. I just sent him WAV files, and he put everything together. But that's a different world. So if you watch that on Facebook or YouTube, that's fine, But that's a studio recording,
right?
And what we're trying to do is to get that kind of quality live.
Right.
That's the difference. That's where the challenge is. And it is about microphones, and you can't exclude. But the primary, maybe from what I'm understanding, it is probably the streaming software. But I don't think the microphones on the iPhone are not going to be as good as my $3,000 studio mics.
Right. Well, that's sort of the point I was making is you can have your nice Neumann or whatever studio mic,
absolutely,
but if the streaming software isn't capable of
if they handle it,
yeah, it'll just not.
Yeah, the best signal path in the world, and it's not going to sound great.
Right. That's kind of the point I was making. Um, uh, there's a phone call. I'm going to assume this is for Brandon. So let's see. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Jeff?
This is Jeff.
Hello? Hi, Jeff. My name is Robin, and I just posted. I just wanted to say that I did just start a GoFundMe page for Tower of Power on the, I think it's on the band Facebook site. Say that. And
that's so sweet of you, Robin.
Work or not? But it took my payment, so I hope it will take other people's payments. Yeah.
That's really sweet of you. Thank you, Robin.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, can we get you can't have 4 people on at the same time?
No, I'm only paying for 3. So, but I can't tell you how expensive just being able to do this is like $50 a month.
Really?
Yeah, and it's more to do 4 people.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so that's why it would be really fun to have all Brandon and Adolfo on at the same time.
Yeah,
but
that's what I thought we were going to do, but I understand.
Yeah.
So
I thought we were going to do that too.
I wish we could.
All right.
We can try it.
I think
I can go away
to practice, so I can maybe practice.
That's right. Yeah, I could practice right now too. Actually, right now I don't have neighbors right now.
All right, so
I live in a country. I don't have neighbors, so I can practice.
What happens? I told Adolfo to try to log on, and we'll see what happens. If all hell breaks loose, we'll we'll know
not to the whole show.
So if you lose me, if I get fired, thank you.
Hey, Brandon, if I can, sometime tonight, I'll send you that. I'll send both of you the band from Germany, called the Heavy Tones, and just sonically how good everybody sounds on this recording.
Right.
Recording remotely, and I'm going to ask them what they did.
Yeah, but it's a recording, right, Thomas? They're not playing live on Facebook.
I see.
Yeah, that's why. And I've had some friends of mine, like my pal.
Okay.
He's really big on. Well, we want to give them experience of singing in a club. I said, if it doesn't sound as good as being in the club, then there's no point to do it.
So so the video is different if you're just doing a part on a video overdub.
That was the point of when there's a lot of that stuff. You can
Never
record
mind.
audio in your studio. You can assemble the video, and then you can show the video on whatever platform you want, and it's good.
I kind of want to go. I kind of all of a sudden I just had one of those duh moments.
Well.
It's like duh. Okay.
Let's start talking tech, and I'll have a lot of duh moments.
All right. I don't think it's working for Adolfo to get in. So, well, Brandon, thank you so much. It was fun, and thank you for hanging out with Tom and I for.
We do it again. Let's do it in 4 weeks again.
Yeah.
3-4 weeks.
Yeah. We'll have always a horn player night, and then we'll do one rhythm section night.
Hey, I'll pay the other $50 for the 4th person.
I'll have to do that. We'll have to do that next week.
Let's get a GoFundMe for the 4th person.
Let's get
I like that.
Me for a 4th.
I like that.
Yeah. Make the world bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon.
Right. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, thank you.
Love you, man.
Love you, man. Great playing.
I love you, man.
All right, Jeff. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Family members right there. See you guys.
All right.
Okay, so just leave there we go. So now we've just got the 2 of us.
Yeah.
Tom.
Just the 2 of us.
Well, that was fun.
Oh, man. That was, yeah. To talk about an hour going by fast. It always does.
Yeah.
You see.
Okay. Now I'm going to tell Adolfo to try again.
So here comes Adolfo.
Yeah.
Some nice comments here. I'm just coming back here. Looking back. Okay.
No neighbors, Tom. Lucky you. Green. Oh, Adolfo. There he is. Hey.
Hey!
You're prepared with everything there. Nice.
It's Adolfo Acosta.
I like it. Make me feel welcome.
Oh man. Oh, Adolfo, how are you? Adolfo said we tested ahead of time. Are you? Can you hear us okay, Adolfo?
Yeah.
We tested ahead of time. And he goes, I don't talk. I said, don't worry, Tom and I will take care of that.
Good.
So, Adolfo, we have fans, and they are going to ask you questions, and
Okay.
I'm going to ask you questions. First of all, what's it like knowing Tom? Jesus.
Great, man. Like a bigger brother, man. Older brother I never had. Totally.
Now,
I think of you as the big brother. That's
okay. I want to tell an inside story, Adolfo.
Okay.
So Tom didn't know this, but while we were when I was out for monitors, you had a specific signal that you'd give me in order to tell me to turn Tom down in your ears, right? And you would click your heels like really funny. And Tom caught us one time and he gave us this look like, what the hell is going on? It was really funny because you would step back, you'd be standing up there and on the mic, you'd step back and click your heel like, okay, turn Tom down. That was pretty funny.
That's the Tom. Well, he doesn't. When he first started playing with Tower, he has really good internal time, but he would still keep time with his foot, and his foot would do that kind of motion. So that was my signal for Tom, so.
As I've gotten older, I've become less animated.
No, you jump around a lot, Tom.
Oh, you should see how much I jumped around.
Oh, you have great stage presence.
Oh, you're too kind.
Oh,
you actually have excellent stage presence too, and you don't realize it. Actually, people always say, like Adolfo will sit there and do finally let loose, which is because Adolfo does Adolfo's a little shy. He's quiet. He's reserved, which is nothing wrong with that. But you do cut loose sometimes, and it's like I'm going, God damn! I've told you a million times, you got some seriously good rhythm. I mean, you play with great rhythm, but I mean, you got great rhythm, man.
Sometimes I feel it. Sometimes I'm not shy. You
got to be in the mood, though. You got to feel it.
It's got to be natural. Yeah, I can't fake it.
So Adolfo, in case people don't know who you are, you play with Tower of Power. How long have you been in Tower of Power now?
19 years in July. Yeah, I know, man. In July it'll be 20 years, and we're home.
Jesus.
Yeah, July 1st, man. Yeah.
God, and you're only like 20.
I'm 39.
I'm 49.
No.
49.
God, I'm serious. This whole time I was thinking you were like 35 or something silly.
Well, I act even younger, but I feel, it's been a great.
I thought you already turned 50.
No,
wait through November. Okay.
Yeah, man.
So 49. Well, actually, you realize once you get to 49, you get to keep that age for like 10 years.
Okay. That's good.
And then, so technically, I'm still 59.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, man. So I luckily I've been with them they kept me for that long, and so, it's like a mistake that worked out well for me.
Your tone and your solos are great. You've got great tone, man. I'm telling you. And your flugelhorn playing, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man.
So here's from the when we were editing the 40th anniversary DVD, and Emilio's going through all the parts and stuff, and he sits down with me and he goes, I don't think I ever told you this. He goes, man, Adolfo, man. I go, what? He says, of all of us, I've had to fix the least amount of shit with Adolfo's parts and his vocals. It's like he's spot on. Everybody has way more mistakes. I go I know I have way more little glitches. That's what Emilio said.
I'm like I'm like a well-trained parrot,
Okay. So tell me your story about the first night I had Tom on. I made him tell me his story about joining Tower. Tell me your story about how you got the gig and how all that came about. What were you doing?
Well, I went on to sub just for a tour. It was a tour in Europe, and I was playing with Maynard Ferguson at that time. I was 29 or something. I can't remember, but yeah, 29. And I had to quit Maynard's band to go sub with Tower for a tour. And I thought, man, I can't pass this up. I could do, and Maynard was happy for me. And, I told Ed Sargent, the tour manager, and boy, it was tough, talk about the feeling in your throat, gulp, leaving your family to go play with another band. But Maynard was cool. He was happy for me. And then I had a couple of weeks to prepare. So I got the charts for a week in advance, and then I got to practice the charts with Mike Bogart for about a week. We played with the board tapes, and he helped me a lot, Mm-hmm. And I went out to the tour, and I felt pretty prepared. And it was hard work. I mean, every night I got done with the gig, and I put the earphones on, and I had a Discman, or maybe it was a Walkman cassette tape. I can't remember. And I'd spend a couple hours with the charts and the tape, and I would just study after the gig on the bus, and then go to sleep and repeat the next day. Wake up and study some more and do the gig, and then take notes. Emilio and the guys would tell me things to fix, and then I would study the charts after the gig, memorize them. It was a lot of work, and we got done with the tour, and it was really fun, man. Really nice people, man, and good band. What a thrill! Are you kidding? The sound of the drums on stage, and then the crowd. It was amazing. And so we got done with the tour, and I think somebody asked me, hey, can you come and play with us for the next tours, the next gigs in California that are coming up? And I said, yeah, and they kept on inviting me to come back. And eventually they said, hey, the gig's yours if you want it or something. I can't remember. It was really kind of unofficial like that. So yeah, it worked out, man. And
you had way less pressure than me.
Really?
Well, I just felt like I was, it's like, we'll take you to Europe. Can you go to Europe? I did that first audition. It's like, we'll take you to Europe and we'll see how it goes. But when he said it like that, I was like, okay, I'm on probation.
Yeah.
So we got questions here.
Oh.
Okay. So Steve Ybarra wants to know. So how do you like living in New Mexico?
I like it a lot, man. I really like it a lot. I feel a lot more, calm and relaxed and less cluttered.
Is it because there's less people, or is it also something to do about the vibe of the city?
I think it's the vibe of the city. It just, I used to visit here for a while. Bobby Shue, I studied with Bobby Shue for a long time, and I still do, and he moved from LA to New Mexico, to Corrales. And like once a year, maybe twice a year, I'd fly over to New Mexico and take lessons and hang out. And whenever I'd go there and, I'd land at the airport and drive to, ride to his pad or the area close by, I'd always feel this kind of like decompression start to happen and go like, oh, and the mountains looked really nice. It just seemed spacious, and so I forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, the vibe of the place just feels good. It feels spacious. It's calm. It's less crowded, but it's getting more populated, I think, but I like it a lot, man. The food's good. I like the green chili, They're famous for their chili, and their food's good. Yeah, nice people.
So I met you at a club here in LA. Did you grow up in LA?
Oh, that's right. I met you at Charlie O's.
Yeah, Charlie O's. My friend Adam Cohen was playing bass.
Oh, okay, that's right. No, I grew up in Santa Barbara, born and raised in Santa Barbara. Yeah. And then I moved to North Texas. I went to North Texas just to go check it out, to try it out, and I ended up liking it a lot. It was really good for me. And then, yeah, go ahead.
No, go on. I'm just looking at. You just remind me of a question. I'm trying. So people on my feed are asking questions. So, but continue.
Yeah.
I mean to interrupt.
That's it.
So one of the questions, I forget who asked it, was, do you have any stories about playing in the 1 o'clock band at North Texas State? Like any things that's pop out or stories you can share? That was a question that just came up.
Boy, it was just a thrill, you know. I was intimidated playing in that band.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I played in the 2 o'clock for a couple of years, and then when I went to the 1, it was like, you know, it's I just felt pressure all the time, you know. Maybe it was pressure I was putting on myself, but it was very intense, man. Under the gun, under the microscope. I can't think of any stories, man.
That was from Linda Oliver, and I don't know if he's still on board here, but somebody named David Garibaldi just said hello to us.
Hey.
Oh.
So, and see if I understand this question. This is from Tweety from Japan to Adolfo. Says, your embouchure is beautiful. Breathing is great. So your horn sounds efficient. Is there anything you are careful about or what you have in mind when you're playing your horn? And then she says, I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm definitely, you know, more. I when I practice, I'm more careful, and I'm definitely thinking about things when I practice to get these skills happening more automatically. But when I'm playing on the gig, I'm pretty much more just playing. Sometimes I do spot check during the gig, you know, especially if I'm having a hard night, stuff isn't working right. I start trying to like troubleshoot and try, you know, if I'm having problems, I'm thinking, okay, what is it, you know? And so sometimes sometimes I troubleshoot, you know, like is it my air, is it my embouchure, is it my, you know, my posture, you know.
Do you have certain time? Are there certain nights? There must be where. So I have certain nights. When I chip notes, it's for a different reason than when you chip notes. You know, because it's just a read or because I have a read. But so is that what happens usually? Like you'll chip a note a little bit and you'll start thinking a lot.
I might, yeah, I might. I mean, if it becomes a problem, you know, a couple of chips, you know, it's no biggie. But if it becomes a problem throughout the gig, I start to think, well, what could that be? You know, first thing I'll do is look at my tuning slide. You know, think, did I bump it and like move it in the wrong spot? Because you know, having the trumpet in out of tune will help me chip notes easier. But then sometimes it could be like, you know, my teeth aren't my teeth are my jaw's doing something weird, or yeah, it could be, you know.
So we got questions flying in here. Robert Camardo asked Adolfo, what have you been doing with your time during this quarantine?
All kinds of different things, you know. It's been phases, dovetailing into new phases, you know. I went through my little Netflix phase, and I went into like, well, let's do a well-rounded schedule phase, and then it kind of morphed into another phase, and then let's break some bread and, you know, make my own tortillas phase. I mean, I'm still, and you know, can I grow some plant? And yeah, I'm playing every day, you know, and I bust my chops every day, but I've been working on improvising, you know, and playing on a different mount. I'm actually able to experiment more now that I'm home with trumpet, as opposed to when I'm on the gig, because I don't have to worry about something weird happening to my chops and then going to the gig and going, oh, you know.
Right.
But just, you know, just like everybody else, everybody's, you know, purging, you know, purging around my apartment.
So what people don't know is that sometimes Adolfo and I will put our horns on the equipment truck because it's easier, and also we might not be flying our airline. So Adolfo's a trumpet mouthpiece and flugelhorn are in quarantine in the Tower Power equipment locker. So luckily Adolfo has more than one trumpet and more than one mouthpiece.
Yeah,
and so that's not been a problem.
No, because my other trumpet that I have here is also an A trumpet. You know?
Yeah, it is an A trumpet. Yeah, and you played that for many years on the gig.
I played it for quite a few years. Yeah, about 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. Yeah, it's a good horn. It's a good horn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, do any of you guys know Lenny Goldsmith?
Not off the top of my head. I'm bad with names.
Okay. there, Toby Simmons says that he was.
He sang. Yes, he sang for a minute in Tower Power, and I actually met his nephew on an airplane.
Okay.
Yeah, he was there. He was there for a minute. Yeah,
that was before. Yeah. That must maybe in the 90s or something.
I have to ask Emilio. I remember I asked him about that, and he told me the story. But there's so many stories, and I hate, retelling a story I don't know well, especially when it's much better coming from their mouths than mine.
Right. Right. So, when you got Maynard's gig, were you working with Wayne? Was Wayne Bergeron in that gig in the band when you were there?
No, when I played with Maynard, when I got to go out and kind of do my audition gigs with him, that was '98, and he was on around even before. I don't know, man. He was in the mid '80s. I'm gonna guess roughly the mid '80s, 85 maybe 86, right around there roughly. I might be wrong by a few months. But no, before me was Scott Engelbright, which is he's a phenomenal trumpet player. Just
I know Scott,
one of the freakiest trumpet players, and Frank Green, of course, another one.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember looking at some Scott Engelbright YouTubes from when he was at North Texas.
Pretty amazing.
You guys together at North Texas, you and Scott?
Yeah, he was there before me by a year, but yeah, I mean, he was one of the reasons I went. I heard that he was there because I remember him from high school and hearing him at some festivals, and then oh my God, just one of the most amazing trumpet players, man. And I'm like, I want to go. I wanted to be around him and just hear him play and learn from him, and I got to hear him every day for years, He would play with Maynard Ferguson at the end of the rehearsals, at the 1:00 rehearsals. Maynard Ferguson solo, and one year with Danny Boy, and he would just, he would always nail it, man.
Yeah, Danny Boy, you did that tune too, right?
I
heard you do Danny Boy with Eric Nishiro's band.
Oh, I did Danny Boy Light.
That was very good. That I got to hear you do that with Eric's band.
This water.
It was fun. So Ryan, see if I pronounce Coovolo. He wants to know if you could play with anyone out there besides Tower. If you could play with anyone out there, and you could just pick a gig, who would you want to play with?
I don't know, man. I have to think about that.
Because I think he's asking both of us too. And
I don't know.
Shoot, I could see, if Bob Minster didn't want to do the Yellow Jackets gig for a while. That's a gig I wouldn't mind doing. That would kick my ass. I'd have to really shed like crazy.
I don't know. I'll have to think about that.
Brandon was talking about playing with Dave Weckel's band. But actually, if I could play with anybody, I think I'd like to go out there with my own band, doing my own shit.
Nice.
And picking my own guys in my own band at this point, and having people show up for the gigs and getting paid for it. That's if I'm not doing Tower, that's what I'd like to do with my own band.
So do you do any writing, Adolfo?
Just for fun. I've been, during this lockdown, I've been playing around with Sibelius, writing stuff out just to practice, and it's really difficult for me, but it's been fun. It's like a puzzle. People put puzzles of cats and dogs together, jigsaw of 1,000 pieces of little puzzle pieces. I've been playing with arranging and thinking, okay, what would fit here, and what would So yeah, I've been playing around with Sibelius. So but yeah, not really professionally. It's not my forte by any means.
Okay, this song can only mean one thing.
We have a phone call.
Hello.
Is this Jeff?
This is Jeff.
Jeff, this is Ivan.
Ivan, you're Tom's neighbor.
That's correct. I have a question for Adolfo. I know sometimes typing in, they all don't get question, and I muted my sound so we don't get feedback.
Fantastic.
On my computer. And I'm just wondering, I don't know if Doc Severinsen is before Adolfo's time, or if he had any influence whatsoever in Adolfo's career.
Oh yeah, man. I used to stay up past my bedtime to watch the Tonight Show many nights, often in my high school years, and I used to like listen to him with his Tonight Show band recordings and the Zebron band, and had some other records. Yeah, definitely. He was one of the guys that I listened to. One of my heroes. Amazing player and sound and everything. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I also enjoyed his character and his interplay with Johnny, and how he just added a whole nother dimension to that whole show.
He was good. He had a really good personality on that set, man. And he could really go back and forth quick. Yeah.
So Ivan, this is what I want you to know. I'm going to try to pretend to be Johnny, and I want those two guys to be like Ed and Doc.
I can't.
I'll hurry up and watch this.
Okay, all right.
Appreciate you guys so much.
You.
I was trying to find my picture of me and Doc Severinsen.
People have been typing and asking questions. I don't see all of them. I try to look and kind of scroll through. I'm using one of my phones to do this, and
right.
But Ivan said that he likes me better than Tom, even though he lives next door to Tom. No, he didn't really say.
Ivan's the best, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to create banter and stuff for you guys to.
Hey.
Well, wait, let me solo that up, Tom. Man, you know what? You guys need to get jackets like Doc.
Yeah, he can dress, man.
So I play, as some of you know, I play with a really fantastic drummer here in the Bay Area, Tommy Igo. Sometimes back then, this is from 2014, I think, 2015. And we're very fortunate that, they opened up the San Francisco Jazz Center. And the San Francisco Jazz Center is right next to Davies Symphony Hall. And it's really it's kind of like a small symphony hall for straight ahead jazz. And they have another performance room. It's a really great thing. It's acoustically awesome, great facilities. And so they booked Doc to come through, and Tommy Igo got the gig playing with them. At the time, we were a full big band, and I was playing the first tenor chair, and so we get Doc's book. And one of these tunes is this really fast, super fast blues in F concert. I mean, like burning, like 300. And Doc, we're rehearsing, and it's a tenor solo. Thank God it was just a blues, because I could kind of hang. But he goes like, yeah, and then I'm going to cut off the rhythm section, and I just want you to play 8-10 choruses by yourself.
Oh.
I'm going like, what am I going to say? No, I'm going like, holy shit. He's had me playing like a 2.5-3 minute solo. The rhythm, dropping the rhythm section out, having the rhythm section do the cue. He's cueing these shit. He's coming over to me while I'm playing. Going, yeah. He's doing all this shit. And I kind of actually played okay,
Oh, Tom, I think Tom froze up.
It's close. I don't know if it was 300, but it was close.
Tom froze up. Oh, you froze up again.
Do beats per minute for you novice.
I don't. Adolfo, you're still with me.
Yeah.
So Tom, you're freezing up, and you're kind of back. You were freezing up, so that whole story, Tom, we kind of missed because you were freezing. Right.
I'm sorry. God, I hate that. Well, just the story was that Doc Severinsen just made me play and play and play and play on a really fast blues, and it was definitely one of the most memorable experiences of my life.
Yeah,
and having him and listening to him warm up, because he loved warming up in the stairwell. He loved reverb, and they had a chair for him, and he sat there and he played for like 40-45 minutes, and he did some sort of warm up exercises, and then he played through some melodies and stuff, and it's just his tone, and then he can still hit G's and A's and double C's still. He can still hit them. I mean, he didn't do a lot, but he gave us a couple that night. I mean, he had a double C, and I went like, and he was 90 something. He had a double C, and I went like, and it was pretty damn freaking good, especially the first
to hear
half
him
of it.
finally. I met him like maybe a year ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Finally, he played at he was visiting the University of New Mexico, UNM, and he played a piece with the piano, I think, and acoustically in their concert hall, and his sound was just finally got to hear him acoustically, and just how solid he was from bottom to top. Everything was just solid, man. And I got to meet him. I was so thrilled. Finally, just to say hi, and shake his hand.
Hey, so, dude, what are you listening to right now? That's one of the things I missed from the road. Like what you're listening to.
There's a few things. I got this Moacir Santos compilation, Brazilian, and he's got lots of cool tunes on there, man. Really creative, and he played with a band in LA. I was lucky to play with Randy Elcroft's band, and Randy is an composer, and he had a really cool small big band and kind of a chamber jazz group, and he did lots of Monsieur Santos arrangements, and I get to hear like, oh, that's how I should have interpreted it, But there's a Claudio Roditi with the Metropole Orchestra, the late Claudio Roditi, sad that he passed away so soon. And I got a Clark Terry with strings. Is it? Yeah, I think. That he did like in Germany, I think. There's a bunch of British guys in the band. I can't remember. Or Peter Herbolsheimer did the arrangements, but it's beautiful. And that's pretty much. Then I was just listening to Freddie do "I Love You," live, and Stan Getz doing "I Love You," seeing how. Yeah, just random stuff. What about you?
Well, have you been listening to any trumpet players though?
Have either of you guys ever worked with Sudlet? Joe Sublet? Do you know who he is? Or
I'd have to see his question.
Yeah. Have either of you ever collaborated with Joe Sublet? I think.
I don't know.
So,
not ringing a bell.
I have a question. When I grew up, I went all over listening to music. My first love of music was Chicago, Tower of Power, Sons of Champlin, that kind of stuff. As I got more into music, I started turning to jazz, listening to Freddie Hubbard and, George Benson, Miles Davis, all that kind of stuff. And then I went into a fusion period when I was listening to like Brandon, the mid 80s. I was really into fusion and Chick Corea, Return to Forever, all that stuff. And all the time, though, my heart and soul was always in that funk, Earth, Wind and Fire, Tower of Power, all of that kind of horn band pop stuff. Where did you start? And would you like to go play just some jazz, Freddie Hubbard, Miles Davis kind of old swing stuff? Or do you just like being in the pocket where you are now? Does that make any sense?
I like to balance it out. Right now, I'm doing Tower a lot. We tour a lot. So when I do other things, I want to do something different when I'm home. So, but back in the day, I mean, before Tower, I did mostly jazz stuff, and then when I got to do like any kind of like pop or funk stuff, I'm like, yeah, or salsa. It's like great, It's like so that was balancing it out the other direction.
Yeah, for me, I've done these gigs. There's this great club in downtown San Jose called Cafe Stritch, and I've done several gigs there. And it's I've done gigs with Tony Lindsay, and when we do gigs with Tony, we do some standards, we play some funk tunes, we actually do his interpretation of a couple of rock tunes. It's really diversified stuff. It's usually just a 5-piece, so piano, bass, drums, me, and Tony. And it's an amazing experience. I really love doing that because the guy who runs the place, Max, is a young guy, probably in his early 30s. Very well. He's kind of a jazz music aficionado. He loves jazz. And he runs a club, and he gets on the mic before the band goes on, and everybody's sitting there really close. Everybody's right up in your, basically everybody's sitting in your lap. I mean, the closest people are 3-4 feet from you, so it's definitely extremely intimate. And in a way, those kind of gigs can make you feel more self-conscious than playing in front of 20,000 people, which is actually kind of easier because there's always a distance in this mass of people that you don't see. But he always goes on and says, so the band's about to start. I just want to remind you all to, no talking while the band's playing. Listen to the band. They got a tip jar up there. And like everybody sits and listens. And the chatter, the band starts and they have all this food stuff and all these people sitting stage right back and everybody quiets down. It's amazing that I felt like it was like a throwback in downtown San Jose. So I miss doing that, and Max had always said if I put something together, I could do a gig there. I really miss that. But yeah, I mean, I want to play a little bit of all styles when I play, not doing tower. But mostly really cool, like groove tunes with like hip changes and like hip turnarounds and like cool melodies, but that have basically are groove oriented. It's kind of where I live.
Did you ever do marching band, Adolfo? A drum corps?
You know what? I did marching band. And, I was late. I didn't want to march in the sun and do all that. It was like hard work, man. But I had to do it if I wanted to play in the jazz band. But you know what? I'm glad I did. It really forced me to, try to belt it out more with the trumpet, And socially, it was fun. And it was doing those drills. Yeah, I don't think I could do those drills again. I don't know how I did it back then. I mean, we were doing all our band director that we had at the time, Dan Garsky, he was really good, man, and a young guy, and he was like, he'd have these marching drills that were just really drum and bugle corps. But yeah, I mean, I used to watch them, but I couldn't do drum and bugle corps. I mean, I lived in Santa Barbara, and I didn't have a way to get out there, and it just seemed impossible. So, but I did marching band. What about you guys?
We started a marching band my senior year in high school, and I had been taking lots of photography, and I was in like photo 50, which is like advanced photography. And the last thing I wanted to do, I was so pissed when they started a marching band because we had a pretty good concert band, and I was like the concert master. I sat first chair, first clarinet. We played all sorts of cool stuff, and I loved it. And so football season means that now we're playing schlock music. It's like, to me, it was musically bullshit. Marching band part could have been fun, but I was a senior, so I told the yearbook staff, and I had to go to the football games, but I took pictures at the football games, and I didn't have to march in the band. And it's funny, our band director got really mad at me, and they go like, "Well, first of all, if I'm playing in a marching band, I'm not going to play clarinet. I'm going to play saxophone because you can't even hear the clarinets. Clarinet does not cut outside. Saxophone has a little bit of a chance. It's just, that's why drum and bugle horn, you need brass bands out there. Marching bands should be brass instruments. I guess saxophone kind of qualifies as a semi-brass instrument. Even though it's a woodwind.
We had good repertoire. We did lots of like, we copied, Phantom Regiment, Garfield Cadets and the Blue Devil. We did a bunch of the, arrangements, kind of arranged for our marching bands. It was fun. We had lots of meat and potatoes. Yeah, I'm trying to remember it. The memories are coming back. Yeah, we did La Fiesta, Rocky Point Holiday, and we did Mars by Holtz. We did a bunch of hard stuff, man.
Really? In marching band? God dang, that's pretty cool.
Can I tell you guys a story about my marching band experience in Nebraska?
I would love to hear that. Because I didn't know you were in marching band in high school.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I was before I quit high school. I quit high school to go on the road with a band, but I was in marching band, and I was quite the drinker. This was when I was like 14. Okay, I was in marching band, and I had to play bass drum because I was the only one big enough to carry the damn thing. And I got a little loaded before the halftime marching band show for the football game. This ended my marching band career. So I was a little I was a little loaded, and the band marched out onto the field. We were all supposed to do a block formation and go to the right. I went to the left. The band kept going, and I was just marching, and I stopped. And was at the other end of the field, and everybody was laughing, and I was like, "Oh shit!" So I ran to the other end of the field. They said, "Well, we don't think we need you to be in marching band anymore." That's my marching band story.
So I got to tell Adolfo this too, since you know Jeff a bit because he's been on the road. My favorite Jeff story when he lived in Nebraska before was Jeff had a gremlin.
Oh,
everybody remember the gremlin?
Uh-huh.
And he drove he would drive the gremlin up onto the railroad tracks and let some of the air out of the tires. And the gremlin had the same wheelbase as the train tracks. And he'd stick it in second gear or something, or third?
In low gear and first gear.
Low gear, and then what were you doing? 15, 20 miles an hour down the railroad tracks and climb out on the hood, and you climb out on the hood.
Yeah, and get stoned.
You get stoned on the hood of your car.
Yeah,
but that had to been. I mean, before you got sober, I mean that had to be fun.
Yeah,
I mean, even if you're not smoking a joint, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I was before I
crazy
act at 19. I was doing some crazy shit. So this gremlin, I had big racing tires on it, and so if you let a little air out of these big fat racing tires, they would just fold over the tracks, and then the wheel. So you let a little air out, you turn on music, and then climb out on the hood of the car in the middle of the night. And you just go out through the middle of Nebraska, through the cornfields, and you just sit out there and take a beer and a joint, and you'd be good to go. And we just roll for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes up to the next town, and then get off.
Interesting.
Now, right? Okay, so
Adolfo's got to have a story, something like that from his past.
Yeah. I don't think I'd want to share online.
No.
But that all ended on one night when the music stopped. So I tried to climb back in the car to put more music on, and I bumped the steering wheel, and the car went off the tracks, and it got high centered.
Fuck. How did you get it off the track?
I ran 4 miles to the next town, and at 3 a.m. called a cousin that owns a gas station on the interstate there and had a big tow truck. And he'd come out and drove through somebody's cornfield, completely ripped the cornfield up because the car was in the middle of the section. And the section is like a square mile. So this guy my uncle or cousin drove through the cornfield, hooked my car up, and just yanked it off the tracks, because it's a federal offense to be on railroad tracks like that. He just yanked it off the tracks, and it just ripped out all underneath of my car.
That story.
And he drove it back through the cornfield and then parked it in his garage on his gas station until I got it fixed. And my parents kept saying, "Where's your car?" Yeah, I left it at a friend's house.
By the way, Jeff's dad was the town sheriff.
Wow.
My dad was the sheriff. Yeah.
I don't have any stories like that, man. I'm thinking, and I'll probably. Wow, that's quite the story.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah. I was crazy.
You guys have any near-death stories?
Me?
I have a couple. I have near-death stories.
Adolfo, do you have any near-death stories?
Not that I can think of. I'll probably think of it. In about an hour. I think, oh yeah, that time, but I can't.
Yeah. I've dodged a couple big bullets in my life, which makes me think, pretty lucky.
Well,
we'll share that for next week, folks.
The tiger story was pretty near death. Does Adolfo know the tiger story that we told last?
Yeah, I think I told him about the tiger mauling thing, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, that tiger wasn't going to maul me or you because we were paying attention, and I had my sax case.
Right.
He was looking for he was stalking the situation and seeing who was he was wait because that's what I was told. Just to go back to that story, it's like pay attention to them, make eye contact, get your case, stay away. And he said when he saw my saxophone case, he says, "Yeah, if you got that case, you don't need to worry about it. They're not going to try to grab you, and you got the case anyway. It's in the way." So, but I was always very nervous. As much as I love big cats and tigers and stuff, just very apprehensive walking by that chute.
Affected by catnip.
So catnip.
I wonder if they like catnip.
Catnip, I don't know. Yeah, anyway.
If a big cat likes catnip, like little cats.
Okay,
that's a good question. Anybody else out there know?
Here's a question now since this is sort of Tower Power time.
Right.
Two of you. What has been the coolest gig? I know based on being around the band and seeing the band a bunch of times in the last 10, 15 years, you guys have really solidified and become a family. And you all mentioned how it feels like a family. So from a fan's perspective, and I'm sure a lot of people want to ask these kinds of questions, what have there been moments in which everybody on the stage is just playing and you all just felt something different than any other time? That was just a moment of like, oh fuck, this is fucking great. You know, I mean, sometimes you just got to say it like that. It's just like, this is just the best. Do you guys have those stories?
I've had those feelings when they were, but I definitely had those like, oh my God, where some nights I just feel this special magic, and an extra gratitude feeling as well, going like, well, I'm so lucky to be part of what I'm hearing and doing. And, but I can't remember when, but I mean, one of the gigs that I remember recently that was really cool was doing the last NAMM gig we did, and then Royal Albert Hall. But the last NAMM gig we did was kind of special. I was nervous about that, man. But yeah, there's definitely those wow nights. I don't know why, but.
And I've heard a lot of stories from people, including a lady, Toby Simmons, who was at that NAMM show. And she's watching this right now, and she filmed it with her phone or something. But I've heard from so many people that you guys were killing at the NAMM show this year, that it was phenomenal. And when you've got almost all of the industry peers there, I mean, this is NAMM show. That if people aren't a musician, NAMM show is where all the musicians go to see each other. It's like if you've been a name in the music business, generally speaking, you'll show up at the NAMM show.
Right. Merchants, people, and people who make musical gear too, right? Not just, but all the musicians who play that gear are there also.
Right.
Yeah. That was definitely, we were all on point on that gig. I mean, I thought we really nailed it. And I know that everybody was pretty hopped up to go and nail that gig. But the other one I was going to say was, and Adolfo mentioned it, was Royal Albert Hall. I think we all came off the stage that night kind of glowing. But the other thing is, sometimes I'll personally feel like we had a great night. And I'll come back into the room afterwards, and then I'll hear somebody else saying, "Oh, that was a fucked up night, man." It's just like that.
Exactly.
I'm going like, and I go like, "Oh," I go, "Really?" I thought, but I was feeling like, man, I mean, I thought we were on, and I was like, felt so loose playing. It's like, no, man, it was just like, I'm going like, hey, where's the disconnect there? Where's the disconnect there? But there is a certain level of consistency in Tower to where, if you catch us on a bad night, it's not going to be bad.
Right.
And we'll know it, but it'll still be at a high enough level that you'll still be happy.
You
you mind that you spent the money on the ticket.
The one night I was there with you guys at Atlantic City when you guys opened for Average White Band. You all were pretty on that night. Did it feel that way to you guys?
What gig was it again?
Atlantic City and Average White Band.
Yeah. I remember that. At what casino was that? And that was actually a private function for some.
Was it private?
Casino.
That was a. Wasn't that a group?
I don't know, man.
In Atlantic City.
I think we got in like at 4 a.m. or something. Yeah. It was like one of those weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But I thought you guys sounded phenomenal, and Marcus was out in the crowd dancing with a bunch of people, and so the window was probably really narrow between good and bad. I mean, for you guys, pretty consistent. But I want to ask Adolfo now, how did you like working with Jacob Collier?
Oh, it was great, man. I mean, I was just so impressed, and that's an understatement. I mean, he's like a young little genius, but he knew his music and he had amazing ears. But I was really impressed at how he handled himself and how he handled all of the band during the session as a leader. He was really patient and a really good communicator, and very
22 years old, 23.
Yeah, he was so mature, beyond his years, and just amazing years. Just like a modern day Mozart or something, you know.
He seemed to have a sense of sizing up, not just being a savant, brilliant musician. He seemed to have the ability to look at who was in the room and see what he was working with, personality wise, and observing how those group of people work together, and being very patient and kind, and inspiring. And I think I mentioned this last time when I talked about him. I asked him, I said, have you ever like rehearsed a horn section before? And he goes, like that? And he goes, no, this is my first time. I go, like, it seems like you've been doing it for 20 years. Says, thanks. I go, like, it's perfect. It's just perfect. It's the way I like to be rehearsed. Like if somebody's rehearsing me, and really paying attention to the stuff that's not right, but not just coming out right away and saying you're not right. Actually trying to get the result in a different way. It's kind of good. It was kind of cool because let's say we're all playing in a section and we know whatever section, and we know somebody's like keeps messing up the part rhythmically or it's out of tune, and we want to say something, but we've got to say it in the right way. So, because all of us musicians, have frail egos, we're all super sensitive.
No, I don't.
And then we're all. Well, we can all, at any given moment, a musician, even Brandon Fields will probably say this. We'll sit there and go like, I suck. We'll play something and go like, how can I suck so bad? How can I play so shitty? People are going like, what are you talking about? But for us, that's our experience. And to have a guy like him it was like magic. I was just so blown away by who that guy is. Man, just brilliant.
Yeah.
So now what's your favorite bus story? Do you have any bus stories like
me? My favorite bus story is being able to sleep 10 hours, getting caught up. That's because it's tiring, man, the way we travel. And I can't think of any bus stories, but if I sleep well on the bunk, if I could get a good night of catching up of sleep, I'm happy. But I can't think of any bus story.
Mine was not any particular story. It was just when I got to the point of being in the band long enough where I was hanging out with, I always sit up in the front of the bus with Emilio and Doc and Dave, and just getting to the point where I just felt completely comfortable with them and just accepted and equal and just hanging with those guys and, kind of my heroes for so many years. And here I am just hanging with them, and they're just part of my family.
Well, well, let me tell you, my favorite for the short time, and because I have this one little bit that I did with you guys, because I grew up being a David Garibaldi fan, right? I mean, forever David Garibaldi.
So you're the one.
Yeah, I'm the guy. So I get up one morning, we were stopped for gas, right? And I go get some coffee and I come back and I sit at the table. And
okay.
A couple of people walk in and like, no, you don't want to sit there. I'm like, no. That's Dave's chair. And like, oh, okay. So I sat there for a few more minutes, and then I thought, no, maybe I ought to get up. So I got up and I went and sat down, and then it's like, no. That's Doc's seat. I'm like, okay, all right. So I'll sit there. So finally I found a comfortable seat in between, everybody. But for me to think, man, I went from being a kid, being a fan, and I'm sitting in his seat, and they said, get out of his seat. I thought that was kind of a cool bus story. I mean, I'm going, that was
hey, well, so I want to say something that's really cool that probably some people already know this, but we're a 10-piece band, and we have these famous guys that have been in the band 70s. Doc, Emilio's the band leader. It's a 10-way equal split on the money. 10-way equal split. Those guys don't. I mean, if I joined the band and I found out if I was, okay, but they don't treat you like a side man.
No.
You're a member of the band. They could have treated me like, okay, we're the band. There are bands like that. I'll even say the name, the Doobie Brothers. There's guys that have been in the Doobie Brothers for 20 years that are sidemen and aren't treated like equals, or they didn't write any tunes. But and there's the opposite of that. Besides Star Power, there's Steve Miller's band. Steve Miller is the artist. He wrote the tune and stuff, but I'm sure he takes a bigger cut but he takes care of his guys. And everybody in the original Steve Miller band, Steve made sure they all became millionaires. And they didn't even write any of the tunes. And also, as some of you guys out there know, Steve Miller was one of the first guys to bust the record company's balls on getting publishing royalties. He's going like, why are you getting publishing royalties? Wait a second. I get the writers' royalties, you get the publishing royalties? No. That ain't happening anymore. And back then, artists in the early 80s, late 70s, had that kind of power. Prince had that kind of power too. Prince did some great things. Because, when you're at the top of the food chain, you can dictate. Prince always wanted to make sure that people could afford to go to his concerts. So he's the one that got off Ticketmaster, things like that. I mean, it's just cool stuff. Anyway, same with Tower. So I never felt like a sideman in the Tower, and equal, and just there is a point there's a while where you're the new guy, and they don't know who you are. But me and Adolfo have been in the band so long,
right?
I'm still a new guy though. I feel like one. I still feel like a new guy, but no, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I don't
really?
want.
Wait a second. I want to follow that. You still feel like a new guy sometimes?
Oh yeah, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just so lucky to be in there, and
I feel the same way.
I'm just grateful. They gave me like a life,
Well, I feel the same way, but I feel the gratitude, but I don't feel like the new guy anymore. But I definitely feel the pressure I put on myself when we perform to try to always play better play a better solo, play a more perfect horn section gig. Every time I play, I always feel that. I mean, it's a good pressure. It's not a bad pressure. I mean, you feel that too, right, Adolfo?
Yeah.
I mean, every time we play, just like shit, we're going on stage again.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's time. It's showtime. Oh, I miss that.
Yeah.
Miss that. Freaking miss that.
I just want to say a couple of things. I want to get clear that Dave and Doc sitting in their seats is not a big deal, and I don't want anybody to mistake that.
Thank you.
Would be that way because they're not that way, but it's just out of respect because of who they are. That Dave likes to sit in a certain, but he would never have come out and said, "Get out of my seat."
No. And here's the thing: is if this is the only perks they're asking for after being in the after all this time, if their one perk is they have their seat on the bus,
right?
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, no, it's just a thing out of respect. It's like, hey, and I'm just, I don't know, so I'm happy to give it to me. It felt like an honor to even have been there.
Adolfo, you have your seat. You have your own seat in the back lounge, don't you?
No, not really.
No,
kind of sad.
You guys mix it up back there.
A lot of times it's mixed up because it's kind of like first come first serve back there. But I know where I like to sit because and I'm short. I don't need to sit at the head of the back lounge because I have short legs. I sit by the door, by the entrance to the bunk area because it's comfy and I can get in and out easily. I usually don't stay in the lounge too long most of the time. Once we get rolling, about 20 minutes to a half hour after we're rolling, I go to my bunk and take a nap, or go to sleep. But no, it's I know where I like to sit though, but it's not assigned seat.
and
Adolfo can sleep anywhere.
Really
pisses me off.
I can't.
I'm just no, it makes me jealous. I'm jealous. You can sleep anywhere.
I'm sleeping well during this pandemic at home. Sleeping's been terrible, man. I'm like, geez, I got to take a nap again. I just can't.
Oh, don't even. I had the worst insomnia last night.
Oh,
I woke up. I went to bed at like a little before 11, and I was going to play golf this morning. And I woke up at like a little before 2, and I couldn't go back to sleep until like almost 6 o'clock in the morning. And I had to text the guys. I said, "There's, and it was a really nice round of golf too. I had to say, hey man, I can't make it. I said, I'm just finally falling asleep again. If I get up to play golf now, I'm going to be shot for the whole freaking day." So I went back to sleep at 6, and I think I slept till about 10:30, and I felt not super shitty. But I have these nights, man. The problem is, you guys, with this pandemic, you wake up and you can't shut off your brain with whatever shit that's bugging you. It's just like, it's like sometimes stupid stuff is bugging me in my head, and I can't shut my brain off. And I've kind of like decided that if it happens again, I'm just going to wake up in the middle of the night and try to be productive. Write out a solo or do something productive with my insomnia. Be up at 4 a.m. doing something. And it's like, at least I got something done.
When I get up at 4 a.m, I go eat chocolate.
Chocolate, huh? I have so not had a sweet tooth.
Oh man, okay.
This is a good question for both of you. What are your favorite pandemic stay-at-home things to eat? Now, I think both of you do some cooking.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
Adolfo, what have you been cooking? Adolfo, what you been cooking?
You know what? What have I been cooking? I've been changing it up. I go through little phases again. It's like I'm kind of changing the menu around. But
what have you cooked? What have you cooked in the last 4 weeks that you went like, yeah, that came up pretty good?
I made a little. I had some leftover bolognese sauce in the freezer that I made. I think the Italian style, close to the Italian style of bolognese sauce. And I made some handmade pasta. I have a pasta roller. I just made some really thin sheets of pasta, and I made a bechamel sauce. And I had just enough bolognese sauce for a small little mini lasagna, so a little custom, little small, and it was fantastic. I'm like, dang, it's like no one's ever around when I nail it, but that was really good.
Did you take a picture of that?
I did.
You got to send it to me.
Doesn't look as good as it tasted. But my favorite little pandemic thing though is like I don't really have dessert stuff, but I have a little jar of Nutella. So for dessert, I'll just get a little teaspoon of Nutella, and I'll just savor that teaspoon of Nutella. Man, it's just so good. But hey, man, hey, man, it's like you said.
What is that? What is that? A timer?
We've been at 2 hours. We've had Adolfo for an hour already.
Wow,
yeah, it's 10:07. Yeah, yeah.
Well, okay,
yeah.
you asked a question. I want to hear it, man.
Well,
your answers. The pandemic yummies.
Oh, my pandemic yummies.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't eating meat, but I needed comfort food the first week, and I made my variation of my mom's red meat sauce, which is you cut up about 3 onions and you cook them down with olive oil, and then you get a pound of good ground beef and a pound of Italian spicy sausage, and you brown those up till they're brown in a separate pan, and then dump it in with the onions that have been cooking. Then you throw in your 3 cans of chopped tomatoes and your 3 cans of regular tomato sauce and 2 cans of tomato paste, and it fills up the bowl. And you add a cup of red wine, a pat of butter, mushrooms. But you add the mushrooms later. So I chopped up some mushrooms, and you let that. And I mean, it was a full, the big pot, the huge big pots. It filled it to the top. I think Ivan, are you still there? Ivan got some. Yes. Hey, Ivan, how was that sauce? So yeah, and I froze a bunch of it. And but the other thing I'm really good at is my tuna salad rocks.
Mm.
So I'll do tuna salad and a regular salad with a lot of spinach and romaine and peppers. And I mean, I have a big salad every day, but finding new ways to cook broccoli. Got to eat more broccoli. What I haven't done is just figured out some ways to cook Brussels sprouts. I miss Brussels sprouts. I need to do something with Brussels sprouts because I love them. So,
right. So fellas, we've been 2 hours, and
no, he's been an hour. We've been 2 hours.
We've been 2 hours, but it's been going 2 hours. So I want to say, people that were tired of just hearing Tom and I, now they got to hear Brandon and Adolfo help us fill out the 2 hours. And I want you both to. This was my 100th live stream show, and this is what I've been doing for the last 8 weeks. And my favorite pandemic is Hershey's Kisses and Donut Prince glazed donuts.
Oh, when you go out with, are you doing that tonight? You going out with Michaela?
Mackenzie?
Donuts? Mackenzie?
And she's at her mom's tonight, and we have to do ear training at 10:30 tonight. We're doing ear training.
Okay.
She's practicing for her her new choir when she's going to go back to school. So we do ear training, and she has to do sight singing. So I'll draw a note on I'll draw a clef, and then she and a staff and give her some notes, and she has to sing them without me giving her a note. She has to sight sing it and hear the pitch. We're practicing that stuff. And I want to thank you. This has been okay. Hey. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Here we go.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, man. I appreciate it.
Hey man, I miss you, brothers. I want to see you.
Miss you too.
It's so fun being on the road with both of you.
See, it wasn't that bad hanging out with us here. I mean, we did a lot of talking. We got some good stuff out.
Yeah.
It was fun. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
Okay.
And Tom, we'll see you again next Friday. Next Friday.
Yeah, of course. What else have I got to do? Of course. This is a great way to kill 2 hours.
Right? Okay. Adolfo, I'm going to close this out.
But we're going to have more. But we'll have new guests next week, hopefully.
Yeah,
we're working on some people.
See Adolfo. All right, so Adolfo went, and so Tom, we'll have a couple of new people next week, and they'll take questions and all that kind of stuff. And thanks for sharing the time with us again, Tom.
Yeah, I'm just wow. I'm just looking at the whole scroll. I miss of those of you who I missed your questions. I apologize because, but thanks for all of you for tuning in. It looks like we had a steady between 40 and 55,
Yeah.
maybe 60. That's nice. That's a nice little crowd.
Yeah, it's a
Nice
good
little crowd of people. Joining in, and people don't stay the whole time, but that's fine.
no.
And the fact that anybody's even interested in all this at all is to me is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It was fun sharing my time with you guys on the bus with you guys together.
And it was great having you on the bus.
Yeah, it was. I
never say never. You never know.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to close it out with tune. I'm going to close this out with Roger's tune.
Close it out, and I'll close mine out. I can't sure how to do this. There we go.
I'm going to start this.
There we go. All right.
Oh.
I'm ending my watch party. Ta-da!
Thank you, Tom. Another Friday night hang with Tom Politzer.
Oh, Brandon Fields was watching.
Oh, thank you, Brandon, for joining us for an hour. Thank you, Adolfo Acosta, for joining us for an hour. And Tom and I will come back, and we'll have some new people, new blood.
Yeah. We'll try to make it interesting every week.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Jeff. Give my best to Mackenzie.
All right.
All right.